Hi, everybody, and welcome to Alex Erm's Clips. My wife cheated on me with my wealthy boss and called me a broke loser when I confronted her. She said I could never treat her as well as he does, and that she wanted a divorce. So, here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old man, and I've been married to Zoe, who is 23, for a year. We had been together for the last 4 years, and despite our differences, we had made it this far. Zoe and I come from very different backgrounds. She had a much different upbringing than I did. We met in college at a mutual friend's birthday party. For me, it was love at first sight. Zoe was the most beautiful person I had ever seen, and as I started talking to her, I realized she was just as charming as she was beautiful. Over the next few months, we got to know each other better through texting and going on numerous dates. Eventually, we entered into a relationship. It wasn't until we started living together that Zoe opened up about her family, which had always been a mystery to me. She had told me early on that she didn't want me to meet them because she didn't get along well with them and had been out of contact with them for a couple of years. After almost a year of being together, I finally pressed her to tell me more about her family. I felt she was deliberately hiding something, and it made me uncomfortable since she knew everything about my family. That's when Zoe finally told me that she and her parents were no longer in touch. They had kicked her out when she started college because they wanted her to drop out and start working to contribute to the family. Zoe, however, wanted to get a degree, and this caused a massive fight, leading to her leaving home. Her parents had told her to get out of their house, and she chose to leave. With a lot of help from a few relatives and friends, she managed to gather enough money to pay for her tuition and put herself through college. Her parents had always been like that, she explained. They were extremely stingy and unwilling to work hard to earn their own money, constantly relying on help from relatives to bail them out. This behavior had led to them being ostracized by most of their family members, who disliked them for always trying to manipulate people into giving them money with empty promises of repayment. They ran a failing makeup and beauty business and had wanted Zoe to join them eventually, but she cut ties with them instead. Convincing her relatives to help her had been a challenge due to her parents' reputation. However, they saw how desperate she was and agreed to help without expecting anything in return. Zoe told me she owed a lot of money to many people, which was why she was working so hard at such a young age, juggling a degree and a part-time job. I found her story inspiring and wanted to support her, so I offered to start contributing and help her pay off her debts. My family situation was quite different. My father is an ophthalmologist, and my mother is an entrepreneur who runs a successful online jewelry business. I grew up comfortably, never having to worry about money. This doesn't mean I'm careless with money, but it was never a major issue for me. I'm not the kind of person who struggles with money having grown up comfortably. So when I learned about Zoe's struggles, I was deeply touched. She had kept her story from me because she feared I might think of her as a gold digger, like some people had when they discovered she was dating me. After discussing it, we agreed that I would help her pay off her debts faster. I sent her a set amount of money each month, and she often told me how helpful it was. I never asked for transaction details because I trusted her completely. She didn't know that the money I gave her was from my own salary, not borrowed from my parents, but I didn't think she needed to know. By that time, Zoe had moved into my apartment and I took care of all the bills. Since I was earning a steady income, it wasn't a problem for me. Zoe had just graduated and was looking for a full-time job, so I didn't want her to waste her salary when I could handle the expenses. We were happy together for the 4 years we lived together, including the past year of marriage. After we got engaged, Zoe's behavior started changing subtly, but I was too busy with work to notice. I was swamped with tasks to finish before our honeymoon, so small things like her spending more time on her phone, coming home late from her job, and not looking for a full-time job slipped by me. I wasn't concerned since she had just graduated, and I trusted she would find something eventually. Almost a year ago, we got married, a wedding funded entirely by my parents and me. Zoe didn't have much family to contribute, and she didn't offer to chip in, but I was fine with it, knowing her situation. After the wedding, I continued to pay all the major bills, never expecting her to share the financial burden. She assured me she was still job hunting, but was waiting for something more challenging to come along. Believing she deserved a break after working so hard, I didn't push her about it. We also continued our arrangement where I sent her money monthly to pay off her debts. Unfortunately, a couple of days ago, I discovered she was cheating on me with my boss. It was a complete coincidence. I wasn't snooping. She was in the shower, and I was in the living room where her laptop was charging. Suddenly, a voice call came through on Instagram from an account named Unknown Lover. My first instinct was to answer, and immediately I heard my boss's voice asking why she took so long to answer. I hung up instantly, trying to make sense of it all. I tried to convince myself there might be some innocent explanation, but when I opened Instagram on her laptop and looked at her chats with this account, I saw the truth. They had been having an affair long before we got married. I scrolled back through the messages, and luckily Zoe takes long showers, giving me enough time to see everything. Their flirting had started around the time we got engaged. At my engagement party, my boss, a 32-year-old man, had hit on her, and she had responded positively. He then created a burner account to continue flirting with her, and that's how their affair began. They had been sleeping together for a long time, and in those messages, Zoe was more verbally affectionate than she had ever been with me. She constantly told him that she loved him and was ready to leave everything for him, including me. My boss, however, was holding back on making their relationship official because he was married and had a child around 5 or 6 years old. He had asked her to wait, promising they would be together soon. That's why she stayed with me, waiting for the right moment. Saying I was devastated would be an understatement. I started crying as I read those messages. Zoe came out of the shower, heard my sobs, and approached to comfort me. But when she saw what I was reading on the screen, she stepped back. Instead of denying it or apologizing, she stood there silently while I cried. After a while, frustration boiled over, and I demanded an explanation. She told me point blank that she had been waiting for me to find out. She had been thinking about telling me herself because she didn't want to be with me anymore. She confessed she had fallen out of love with me a few weeks after our wedding and realized my boss was the right man for her. I asked her why she believed that, and she said it was simple. In her eyes, a broke loser like me could never treat her the way my boss did. She bragged about a weekend she had supposedly spent with friends, which was actually with my boss. Her friends had been covering for her, explaining all the fancy new gifts she had received. The expensive clothes, bags, makeup, and jewelry were all from him. She had told me a friend had come into money and was treating them. But now I knew the truth. It was all my boss. She said she was lucky I found out on my own because she wanted a divorce. She was tired of pretending to be interested in me and would rather be single or my boss's mistress than my wife. This marriage was over. Before I could even process what was happening, she started packing her things. I didn't beg her to stay. My heart was broken, but I had too much pride to plead. She hadn't tried to deny anything or apologize. She seemed happy to be leaving. As she packed, she was about to take her laptop, but I stopped her. I told her anything I had bought for her was mine, including the laptop. She made a face, but didn't argue and left it behind. Everything else I had bought her stayed with me. The laptop was more important because I had a plan. Watching her leave was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Zoe had been my world for 4 years, and now everything was crumbling. The betrayal cut deep, but I knew I had to move on. The laptop she left behind held the key to my plan for dealing with this mess. I needed Zoe's laptop as proof for the divorce proceedings. I wasn't going to let her off easily, and I certainly wasn't going to forgive my boss. Our working relationship had been good, but he had no right to hit on my wife and then deceive me like this. The worst part was that he continued to face me at the office, acting all nice while betraying me behind my back. I had always been his go-to guy, handling tasks beyond my job description, and I had prided myself on being a great employee. The betrayal cut deep, but it also fueled my determination. I decided that day to make sure my boss paid the price for what he had done. I knew about some shady things he had been involved in. Recently, he had failed a company-wide drug test, but he had manipulated the results. He bribed the head of the medical team to print a different result. My boss had promised him a hefty sum, half of which he paid in advance. However, after receiving the altered results, he reneged on his promise, causing friction between him and the medical team head. My boss had confided in me, trusting me to handle the situation. The medical team head had even sent us the real test results as a threat, demanding the rest of the money or he would expose my boss. A few days before I discovered Zoe's affair, my boss had shown me the real test results in his office. I remembered where he kept those papers. On the day I found out about Zoe and my boss, I decided to expose him. The next morning, I got up early and headed to the office. I had a spare set of keys to everything because my boss often made me run errands. Getting into his office was easy. Once inside, I found the real test results in his desk drawers. With the documents in hand, I went straight to the police station. I explained the entire situation to the cops and handed over the evidence. After that, I decided whatever happened to my boss was no longer my concern. He was arrested, as the drugs found in his bloodstream were illegal. Not only is he under investigation, but so is the medical team involved in the drug tests. Everyone is in a lot of trouble because of me, and I'm not hiding it. I told the cops I would be available if they needed any more help. I also quit my job, not wanting to be associated with any further drama there. My boss is currently under investigation, and I don't know if he'll be charged. However, I am satisfied that I got him into trouble. He has been suspended from his position, which brings me a sense of justice. My life is in turmoil, but knowing that my actions have consequences for those who wronged me gives me a bit of peace. The betrayal by Zoe and my boss had shattered my world, but exposing my boss's illegal activities felt like reclaiming some of my lost dignity. I had put my trust in the wrong people, but now, with the truth out, I could start to rebuild my life. I planned to use the evidence from Zoe's laptop in our divorce proceedings, ensuring she wouldn't walk away unscathed from this mess. Her blatant disregard for our marriage and my trust deserved repercussions, and I was determined to see it through. As the days passed, the investigation into my boss deepened. His reputation, which he had meticulously built, was crumbling. The company distanced itself from him, and colleagues who once admired him turned their backs. I received calls from former coworkers expressing shock and support, but I remained focused on my next steps. I was free from a toxic work environment and a deceitful marriage. It was time to move on and start afresh, carrying the lessons I'd learned and the resilience I'd gained from this ordeal. If my claims turn out to be true, my boss is going to be fired and then jailed. The only person upset about this is, unsurprisingly, Zoe. She's been calling me incessantly since the news about my boss broke, accusing me of ruining both her life and her boyfriend's life. She keeps insisting that reporting my boss out of anger over the affair is not right and claims to be deeply disappointed in me. She believes my actions were extreme and unfair because they stemmed from revenge rather than righteousness. So here I am, dealing with accusations of going too far by reporting my boss for drug use after discovering his affair with my wife. A week has passed since I first posted here, and I've already filed for divorce. I made sure to do it before Zoe had the chance. Speaking of Zoe, I've blocked her on all platforms. It's clear to me now what a snake she is, and I've stopped second-guessing myself. Reporting my boss was the right thing to do. There are no two ways about it. The legality of his actions was in question, and my motives don't matter as much as the fact that he was involved in illegal activities. He wasn't a good guy, so I have no guilt about exposing him. Had he been a genuinely nice person with a drug problem, I might have reconsidered, but that wasn't the case. I feel disgusted with myself for letting Zoe live with me and for doing so much for her for so long. More than anything, I feel like an idiot for loving her. Many of you have asked if there were any signs, and I can honestly say there were none. Even after the affair started in earnest, she acted perfectly normal with me. I would never have guessed the reality of the situation if I hadn't stumbled upon it. Looking back, I realize I was blind to her deception. I never questioned her story about being estranged from her parents due to wanting a degree while they wanted her to work. Now, I doubt that story and suspect she wasn't using my money to pay off any debts. I never received updates about her debt repayment, but foolishly, I never asked because I trusted her blindly. Reflecting on everything, I realize how idiotic I was. I trusted her more than she deserved, but that's in the past now. With the divorce in motion, I'm determined to get what's rightfully mine. 3 days ago, Zoe was served with the divorce papers, and today we received her response. She's not contesting the divorce, but disagrees with the terms of the petition and wants to negotiate. I'm prepared for that. She can bring it on. Zoe is demanding to keep the house, a substantial settlement, and alimony. Her bold claims are astonishing, given what she's done to me. No known cheater would bother crafting such an elaborate petition to keep everything and make it clear they're a gold digger. It's blatant that her primary interest is my money. I doubt she even cares about my boss anymore, especially since he's not in a position to support her financially. Seeing this cold and calculated side of her helps destroy any lingering feelings of love or affection I might have had. Although I'm deeply disappointed in how she turned out, I'm determined to win this battle in court. We're scheduled to meet with a court-appointed mediator in a few days. I'm ready to face whatever comes next. Meanwhile, I've finally found the courage to talk to my parents about everything that's happened. They were initially shocked, but have been incredibly supportive. It feels good to have their backing and to know they're standing by me through this ordeal. This process has been an emotional roller coaster. Despite the anger and disappointment, I'm beginning to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Winning this case and moving forward with my life is my primary goal. I'm channeling all my energy into ensuring that justice is served, both in the courtroom and in my personal healing journey. I'm learning to let go of the past and focus on rebuilding a future where I can trust again, free from betrayal and deceit. I had been hiding the whole situation from my parents because I felt ashamed and embarrassed by what was going on. But I realized that this was too big to handle alone, and I needed to talk to them. I'm glad I did because they were incredibly supportive. They assured me they would help in any way they could, both financially and emotionally. Given that I had quit my job and was currently searching for a new one, I knew I would need to rely on them financially for a while. With all my bills, rent, and now the legal fees for my lawyer, everything was getting really expensive, and I had to dip into my savings. Finding a new job seemed daunting since I was still caught up in the drug controversy involving my boss. Acting as a witness against him was emotionally draining, and I doubted any company would be willing to hire me at the moment. However, knowing that what I was doing was the right thing kept me going. Worst comes to worst, I figured I could always work for my dad, where I knew for sure that I wouldn't get screwed over by my boss. Update 3. The negotiations had started, and it had been a week and a half since I received Zoe's response to my divorce petition. While my boss's trial was still ongoing with no updates yet, the negotiations with my soon-to-be ex-wife were not progressing well. Zoe was being extremely demanding and lying through her teeth during these meetings, trying to paint me as the bad guy to justify her claims. She acted like the victim, which was incredibly annoying. She would show up to these meetings looking like she had been through so much, but I could see right through her act, and it was disgusting. I knew what she was trying to do, possibly sway the mediator, but it wasn't going to work on me or my lawyer. We weren't backing down from our claims and were determined to get what we rightfully deserved. There was no way I was letting her walk away with the kind of settlement she was demanding in alimony. Her sense of entitlement was baffling, especially since she cheated on me. I had all the proof, including her laptop containing all the incriminating texts. Even if she logged out of her accounts now, I had taken screenshots of everything and presented them during the meetings. Yet, she claimed she had to seek love outside our marriage because I treated her badly. She alleged that I made her do all the housework, forced her to quit her job, and promised to take care of her, only to go back on my word. None of that was true, and it boiled my blood every time she spouted such lies. It took all my willpower to restrain myself from walking out of those meetings. My lawyer advised me to keep my cool, but it was increasingly difficult given the circumstances. I was incredibly frustrated, feeling like things were getting tougher with each passing meeting. Keeping my composure was a challenge, but I knew I had to persevere. I just hoped that things would come to an end soon. Amidst all this, I realized how critical it was to maintain my sanity and focus. I was actively looking for a new job, but the ongoing legal battle and the emotional toll it was taking made the process slow. My parents' support was invaluable during this time, providing both financial aid and emotional stability. Despite the upheaval, their unwavering belief in me gave me the strength to continue fighting for what was rightfully mine. Zoe's deceit and betrayal had shattered my trust, but it also made me more determined to emerge victorious. I was not just fighting for justice in the court, but also battling my inner turmoil. Each meeting with the mediator was a test of my patience, and each lie from Zoe was a reminder of why I needed to stay strong. The road ahead seemed long, but I was ready to face it head on, no matter how difficult it got. This ordeal had taught me a lot about people and relationships. I learned the hard way that trust should not be given blindly, and that even the closest people could deceive you. It was a bitter lesson, but it was one that I would carry with me moving forward. Despite everything, I remained hopeful for a better future, one where I could rebuild my life with honesty and integrity. I still haven't had any luck on the job front, which is another disappointment I have to deal with. The news about me exposing my boss has been making the rounds, and that kind of negative reputation in our industry, or any industry for that matter, isn't conducive for employers to hire me, so it looks like I might actually have to start working for my dad. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just hope that maybe I might be able to pave a way for myself independently. Clearly, it's going to be very difficult now that I've picked a fight with the wrong people. Update 4. Hey, it's been 2 months since I filed for divorce, and today I'm not going to talk about that. Instead, I'm here to tell you guys that my boss is going to jail. I'm not sure for how long, maybe 2 or 3 years, but he might get out earlier for good behavior. Anyway, the point is that he's in jail right now. The only person I feel bad for in this situation is his wife. I know for a fact that she is a stay-at-home mom and is completely reliant on his salary for everything. So now that he's not going to be earning, life is going to get pretty difficult for her. I feel bad for her and the child, obviously. They deserve better than this. But unfortunately, this is how it is for them right now. As for me, I've started working for my dad. Surprise. My dad, thankfully, was really nice about this and didn't for once make me feel weird about it. The divorce proceedings are still ongoing. We haven't been able to come to a conclusion about the settlement, so negotiations are still dragging on. However, I'm trying not to let Zoe get under my skin anymore. It's much easier now that I don't like her at all. Update 5. Hi, it's been almost 6 months since my last update. I got really busy after that, working for my father, and I forgot to update you guys. Anyway, a couple of months ago, my divorce finally came through. Zoe had to agree to my terms of the petition because it was the best route for her. The mediator made it clear that if we were unable to reach a decision, it would go to court, which would be much more difficult for us. He said this to both of us, but I knew he was actually addressing Zoe. He had seen right through her bluff. She had been able to lie during our negotiation sessions, but she wouldn't be able to do that in family court. There would be really bad consequences for that, so, long story short, she had no other option and had to concede. Now, she and I are divorced, and we have no contact with each other. I prefer it this way, to be honest. I am going to therapy and trying to work on myself. It's going to be a long road to recovery, but I know I'll get there eventually. I have wonderful friends and really supportive parents. I'll keep them close and get through this. Reflecting on everything that has happened, I realize how much I've learned and grown through this ordeal. The betrayal and deception were deeply hurtful, but they also opened my eyes to the reality of the people I was dealing with. I'm grateful for the support system I have in my parents and friends. Their unwavering support has been my rock through these turbulent times. Working for my dad has been a surprisingly positive experience. It's allowed me to refocus my energies and rebuild my confidence. My father has been patient and understanding, providing me with the space to heal while giving me meaningful work to engage in. This has been crucial for my mental health, keeping me grounded and occupied during this tumultuous period. The legal battle, while exhausting, was a necessary step towards reclaiming my life. Zoe's blatant lies and manipulations during the negotiations were infuriating, but they also reaffirmed my decision to stand firm. The mediator's recognition of her deceit was a small but significant victory, ensuring that justice prevailed, at least in part. My boss's incarceration was another complex aspect of this journey. While I don't take pleasure in anyone's suffering, holding him accountable was important. It brought a measure of closure and justice to an otherwise chaotic situation. His family's plight is unfortunate, and I do sympathize with them, especially his innocent child. But the consequences of his actions were unavoidable. Moving forward, my focus is on healing and rebuilding. Therapy is helping me process the trauma and regain a sense of normalcy. I'm working hard to shed the residual bitterness and embrace a future free from the shadows of this betrayal. It's a slow process, but I'm committed to seeing it through. In the end, this experience has fortified me. I'm stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I've learned to value myself and set boundaries, ensuring that I never allow myself to be treated so poorly again. The road ahead may be long, but with the support of my family and friends, I'm confident that I'll emerge from this stronger than ever. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this ordeal. It has meant more to me than words can express. Dear friends, if you're enjoying these stories, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more juicy relationship tales. Thanks for your support.